Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, a place where dreams take flight, with authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives and meaningful conversations, where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV. Download our app, USA Global TV. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. Thanks to our founder and executive producer, Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Music score by Yeffy Tang from Cloud Road Music. Voiceover artist Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. USA Global TV and Radio, your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited.
This is Let's Finally Talk, a heart-to-heart with Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Live streaming every night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm your host, Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Join me on YouTube at Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, on Facebook at Dr. Jacalyn, and on Instagram at Dr. Jacalyn, as seen and heard on the USA Global TV and Radio Network worldwide. We've earned the YouTube Silver Creator Award, and I've earned the 100 Global Top Women Icons in Media. My TV shows are Iconic Women, Creating a World of Possibilities, Judgment, the Hidden Sin, A Woman's Prerogative, Sisterhood Across Borders, It's Your Healthy Lifestyle, and the latest updates. Thanks so much for watching. See you tomorrow. We're streaming every night live on Let's Finally Talk. Hello and welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, and our show today is Let's Finally Talk, a heart-to-heart with me. Our subject is when you can't unsee what you now know. Just think about that for a minute. I want to talk about something that many people experience, but they don't always have the words for. It's that moment when you see something so clearly and you can now not unsee it. It might be a pattern, it might be behavior, it might be the way that someone consistently shows up or doesn't, or it might even be about yourself. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Does this resonate with you? Do you have any idea of what I'm talking about? If you do, drop it in the comments. I'd love to hear from you and let me know where you're watching from. Once you see it, something shifts. It might not be dramatic. It might not be all at once. It might not be loud, and it might not be permanent, but something definitely changes. You can't go back to the way things were before. You can't go back to the way you related before. You can't unhear conversations the same way. You can't explain things away as easily because now you know. And that can be very unsettling. We are living in a culture that encourages us, to look on the bright side, to be positive. And I have this outlook as well. I always want to give affirmations and gratitude and thanks and keeping the sunny side up and the best perspective. But sometimes it can be exhausting because once you have that clarity, once you see what it is, you now have the benefit of the doubt that you know the difference between optimism and self-betrayal. Think about when we're optimistic about something. Oh, things will change. Things are going to get better. And then you compare it to when someone has shown up a certain way or situations are showing up a certain way and you feel betrayed. And once you feel that betrayal, it's very hard to just go on as though things were normal, unless you are, I'm just going to put it out there, an Academy winning, award winning actor. So, one of the hardest parts of clarity is that it doesn't come with an instruction manual. There's no directions as to what it is that you're supposed to do next. You have this information, you have this confirmation, you have this reality. And suddenly you're standing in a place where all of the old explanations, whether they're yours or someone else's, they no longer work. And you're finding yourself realizing, I just can't keep explaining this away. I can't keep looking the other way. I can't keep pretending this is not happening. And I can't pretend that it's not impacting me, that it's not affecting me. That is not negativity. That is your awareness. And it could be a new awareness that you've never had before. But now you're aware of it. And this is where elevated listening, my platform that I've created, becomes essential, because elevated listening is not about reacting in the moment that the clarity arrives, but it's about staying present with what you now know. So you have this information and you have to decide, what am I going to do with it? Have you ever been in a situation, maybe it's a relationship, it's personal, it's professional, and things were going along a certain way, and then one day you learned something? Maybe you were not supposed to find out, you found out by mistake, whatever the case is, but you now know this piece of information. And it might even be information about yourself. It might be something that you now recognize in and of your own behavior, and you can't just explain it away. You might think to yourself, maybe I'm being too sensitive. Maybe it's really not that bad. Maybe I misunderstood. But clarity doesn't come from misunderstanding. Maybe someone finally shows you who they are. Or if we turn it around the other way, maybe you finally see the person for who they are. I always say, when someone shows you who they are, believe them. And this is a really difficult one, because I've been doing it myself over time, and you recognize it in yourself. You say to yourself, wait a minute, I want this person to be a certain way, but they're showing me they're a different way. But I think I can fix it. I think I can make it work for me if I get them to change this, that, and the other. Well, as I've shared before, and as I'm sure you've experienced, we cannot change anyone else. It's difficult enough to change ourselves. I mean, we just came through 2026, January 1st, people making resolutions. And how many people are actually sticking to those resolutions now? I don't know. I didn't make any resolutions, only because I feel like in order to change something, it takes an incredible amount of work. And I'm pretty happy with the way my life is now and the choices that I'm making. But when someone shows you that this is who they are and this is how they're living and these are the choices that they're making, you have to believe them and stop telling ourselves the story that maybe this isn't what I really think that it is. So the clarity doesn't come from misunderstanding. It comes from repeated information. It comes from patterns that finally line up. So now you have the information and you start to process it and you say to yourself, okay, it's starting to click now. Now I get why this happened, or why he or she did this or said that. It's all starting to add up. But we don't want to face it, because once we see it, then we know. And when you can't unsee what you now know, the work isn't to forget it. Sometimes people will say, you know what? I just can't deal with it. I can't believe that she's this or he's that, or that I'm this, or my situation is this. So I'm going to do X, Y, and Z so I don't have to deal with it. I'm just going to bury it so I don't have to acknowledge it. But it will show up somewhere in your life later on, and it might be in your health. So think about it. The work is to decide how you are going to live with this realization, what it is that you now know. And this is where many people are conflicted, because clarity, that knowledge that you now have, sometimes can lead to what? Grief. because now you might have to let go of something. You might have to certainly let go of what you were thinking of the other person or the situation or of yourself. You have to process that. You had this idea that things were a certain way, and now you have to understand that they're not. So that can mean that you may have to grieve the version of a relationship that you hoped for that doesn't really exist. You may have to grieve the idea of someone that you had in your life. And you may have to grieve the comfort of not knowing. I've heard people say many times, I wish I didn't know. I wish I could go back in time, reverse time, so that I didn't know what I now know. Now, of course, we can't go back in time, but why would someone say this? Because now it's going to take work. It's going to have to be a conscious decision. Will you continue on in this relationship? Will you continue having this person in your life? Will you continue with your own choices and your own behaviors based on what you've learned about yourself? And that is when the grief is real. Even when clarity is necessary, it can still hurt. Elevated listening teaches us something very important here, and I want you to remember this. You are allowed to hold on to clarity without immediately taking action. So you can sit with this information. You now know something, and you can sit with it and you can process it. Silence is a choice. You can choose to engage, and I've shared this before. You can choose to jump into the fire and do battle. You can choose to keep the information to yourself and not share it with others. We don't have to share everything with everyone. We don't have to post everything on social media. So now that you have the information, you can choose silence while you are processing what your next step is. And your next step may mean that you just decide to sit with awareness, that you decide that you're not going to turn it into a confrontation or an ultimatum or a dramatic exit. The clarity that you now have doesn't demand urgency. What it does demand is your honesty for you facing it. So before you say anything to anyone else, ask yourself this. Knowing what I now know, what does this truth change for me? What do I need to stop ignoring? And what am I no longer willing to override or look the other way on? Think about those 3 questions. This is not about judgment, it's about alignment. And another challenge that people face after clarity is the temptation to make other people see what you see. So you have information now about someone in your life, and it doesn't have to be a deep, dark secret. It's just something that you didn't want to face. And so, what do you do with the information? You decide to contact people in your network, contact your friends and family, and say, oh, by the way, I realize that so and so is this. What do you think about it? Where you try to get a poll going so that people can vote on your new awareness. Is this actually going to serve you? Probably not, because the likelihood of people lining up exactly as you would like them to do is probably not going to happen. Everybody has their own opinion. So why not just sit with this new clarity about what you now know and just start to process it? While you're processing it, you may think to yourself, I can't believe I didn't realize this before. You may start name calling. I can't believe how stupid I am that I never saw this. I can't believe how long I've been letting so and so get away with this. None of this is going to be helpful, because all you're doing is you're beating yourself up for having clarity. And that clarity is where the growth is. So instead of beating yourself up, and even instead of beating up the other person, why not sit in gratitude for the fact that you have this awareness And as I always say, one thing that is so important about being humans is that we get to choose. We get to choose who we allow in our life. We get to choose how we decide to plan our day, what we're going to do with our words, with our action. So, with the clarity that you now have about the situation, you can decide whether you're going to keep this person in your life or whether you're going to walk away. But one thing I want you to remember, this is super important. If you decide to walk away from someone, think long and hard about letting them back into your life. Because if you do let them back into your life, remember how they left, because they've already shown you who they are. You just didn't want to believe it. You didn't want to see it. Maybe you just weren't ready for it. We're on a journey in our life. And so things come up for us at the time when we most need them. And I truly believe that people do come in and out of our lives for a reason or for a season to teach us something. So, with your new clarity and the fact that you're not going to be beating yourself up, pay attention to whether there's accountability, ownership, or even the desire to repair the situation. Or when you address the situation with the person, if you choose to, is there silence? Is there blame? Do they suddenly ghost you or disappear? Or do they try to rewrite their version of the story? I want to remind you that elevated listening is not about holding grudges. It's about remembering patterns. Forgiveness does not require re-entry. Meaning, just because you forgive someone, you now see who they are, they've shown you. That doesn't mean that you have to keep them in your life. That doesn't mean if you walk away, you have to let them back in. Because as I just said, remember when they come back in, they're still the same person, unless they've done a lot of work on themselves. You know, you and I, you who are out there watching this show, I believe that you really are working on yourself. I'm working on myself every day. Every day I'm reading, I'm growing, I have mentors, I have coaches, I'm taking classes, I'm teaching classes because I truly want to grow. And so do you. Most people do not. They will stay in the same ways and conditions and behaviors that they've been because it's a lot of work to change. So, congratulations to you for watching this show and for being interested in growing. Your peace of mind is the most important thing, I believe, having inner peace. And that inner peace does not depend on the person acknowledging what you now realize. So you realize something about someone and you decide to go and confront them, or maybe even address it with them and say, you know what? I never realized before that you XYZ. That person doesn't have to say, you know what? You're right. I didn't want to share that with you, or I'm surprised you didn't see it before. You don't need their acknowledgement. You just need to be in control of your own feelings. And so, elevated listening reminds us that clarity is about self respect. You don't need to convince someone of what you now know in order for it to be valid. And I always say to people when they attend my classes on listening, don't take the information that you're getting from me and go home back to your partner, back to your family, back to your colleagues, your community, and say, oh, by the way, I happened to watch a TV show, or I listened to a podcast, or I took a course, and what I learned is this, that, and the other. And you need to change. You're wrong. You do this, you do that. The only thing you're going to get is defense mechanisms. You're pushing someone's back up against the wall. And now you're coming in as though you know everything. So, what I'm teaching here today and what I teach in general is for you who has come forth to say, basically, I'm interested in growing. I'm interested in learning. You don't have to go back to the people in your life and tell them that you now know what they need to do to change. It's not going to be received well. So, why put yourself into that type of situation? This is especially important in relationships where there's not flexibility, there's not accountability, and there's no forgiveness. And there's an old expression which my father used to say, and I'm sure some of you know this, but a bad penny always turns up. So when someone's shown you who they are, that's who they are. You believe them. And whether you see them today, tomorrow, 5 years from now, they're probably going to be exactly the same unless they're doing the work. And for people who have that mindset, they typically come from a place of ego where they don't feel like they have to do any work. So let's just focus on you and let's focus on me. We're here because we want to do the work, because we are doing the work, and because we're coming from a place of love. And when you come from a place of love, you are interested in going the distance to find inner peace. Now, once you come with this clarity, and however it is you process it, you may notice there's more distance between you and the other person or you and others. It might be quieter, there might be more tension, but that doesn't mean that your clarity was wrong. What it means is that the relationship was built around something that your new awareness has now disrupted. And that can be very uncomfortable for both people. Another thing that happens after clarity is that silence feels different. Sometimes people will use silence as a way of processing their feelings. And I really like that. I am someone who would just react. Typically, I would just react right away, have my feelings, but now I sit in the silence and I process things. And sometimes people are very uncomfortable in the silence. If you text someone or you email someone and you don't hear back from them right away, sometimes people are very uncomfortable with this. But why aren't they getting back to me? What are they doing? But it's actually a tactic that people can use to gain control. Because when you don't hear from someone, if you are not coming from a place of love and you're coming from a place of ego, then you may feel inferior, insecure, anxious, threatened, angry, all of these negative emotions. But when you're coming from a place of love, you realize that people have the right to have time and space to process things. So once you become aware of something that you now cannot unsee, and let me give an example. Let's say you are a witness to an automobile accident, or you're a witness to a crime, but you choose not to come forward. You choose not to go to the authorities. You will never be able to unsee what it was that you saw. And the fact that you don't come forward and share it might mean that you now are left with this extreme guilt because you didn't help with whatever the situation was. On the other hand, you have seen, you've witnessed something, and you now come forward and say, by the way, I witnessed this, and now you're being helpful. That will help you process, but you still won't be able to unsee what you saw. It might get easier as time goes by. But when you're in a one-on-one relationship with someone and you learn something that you were not aware of, you will not be able to unsee that. You may try really hard to push it down, to repress it. But as I mentioned in the beginning of this episode, eventually it's going to be seen. Maybe it's through your health, mentally or physically. So silence is sometimes just simply space to catch up to the truth. And that space has something to teach you. Elevated listening invites you to listen in the quiet, not to your fears, not to your guilt, but to what feels steady underneath all of that noise. Often, what you may hear is something like, you know what? I do not want to keep explaining myself. I don't want to keep pretending that this doesn't matter. I want relationships that don't require confusion. These are not demands. You are setting boundaries. These boundaries are forming. And boundaries don't always announce themselves loudly. Sometimes they arrive as clarity that you can't ignore anymore. So, whenever you find yourself in the situation where you now have this new reality, this clarity, you now may find yourself setting up boundaries. And the boundaries can be to protect yourself. They can be for a number of reasons, and whatever they are, they can be yours, they're personal, and you don't have to announce these boundaries, you don't have to state them. I see so often people making social media posts where they're declaring this and they're declaring that, and I often think to myself, they must need external validation in order to do that. You can post something that you're proud of, an accomplishment, but when you're deciding to cut people out of your life, have you ever seen posts like this on Facebook, for example? I'm going to be cutting people out. I'm going to be canceling out followers. Why do you have to announce this? Just go ahead and do it. You can set a boundary without looking for that external validation. So if you now know something about someone and you hadn't seen it before, you certainly are welcome to set a boundary so that you're not following them on social media or they're not following you. You can choose to block them on your phone. You can choose to not respond to their messages. There are boundaries that you can personally set up. But think about the intention behind the boundary. If you've now seen something, you're acknowledging something about someone, and you decide you no longer want them in your life, you have options. You can actually contact them directly and you can say, by the way, now that I realize X, Y, and Z about you, I'm choosing not to have you in my life. That is an option. Another option is you can choose not to tell them. You can just simply go off into the distance. You can block them by contacting you on your phone. You can block them by email. You can also block them from social media. And maybe they'll never know. Of course, if they try to contact you, they will know. I talked about this in another episode. There are times when people come in our life and then they're gone. And maybe many of you experienced this with the pandemic when all of our lives were disrupted in so many ways. And maybe you'll never have the answer about why the person's not in your life anymore. And that's okay. That's what I talked about in the beginning of this episode. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. If they walked out of your life, then let them go. You don't have to spend any time wondering why, because this is where the self-deprecation comes in, where we start blaming ourselves. What did I do wrong that so-and-so is not in my life anymore? And it may have absolutely nothing to do with you. But yet we choose to forego clarity so that we can go on a journey of self-deprecation and beating ourselves up. So you have a choice. We all have a choice. Take your clarity and use it as you will to set up those boundaries. You may also notice that after clarity, your tolerance absolutely changes. There are things that you once just brushed off and they now feel totally misaligned, and you can't do it anymore. There are conversations that you once felt were manageable, and now you are literally exhausted. You are drained. You don't want to have them anymore. And there are dynamics that you once accepted that now feel so heavy, you feel like you're carrying a bag of bricks, and you choose not to do it anymore. I want you to know this is not about you becoming difficult. It's about clarity. It's about you becoming honest. And with that honesty comes the opportunity to recalibrate, to regroup. One of the most grounding questions you can ask yourself after you have this clarity is, what am I trying to preserve that no longer fits who I am? So let's talk about this for a minute. You see something, you're aware of something, about someone else or yourself or your situation, your family, the circumstances, whatever the case may be. And you now cannot unsee it. So you have to process it and do something with this clarity. Maybe this opportunity for the clarity came up because you are going to take your life into a different direction. Maybe had you never been in this position, you would still stay exactly where you are. Instead, let's rewrite it. This is an opportunity for you to go in a different direction. And maybe it means the direction that you're going in is no longer with this person. But in your mind, in your heart, you say to yourself, but I love this person, but I care about this person, but this person's been in my life for so long. Okay, they served a purpose. The relationship served a purpose. But now you know something that you didn't know before. So now you have new information. And I will go back to what I was talking about before. You witness a crime and you go to the authorities. The authorities now have information that they didn't have before because you witnessed something. So you're now witnessing something in your own life. It's information. And what you do with that information could be your golden ticket to get you to where you want to go. So maybe give thanks. And as hard as it might be to set a boundary and say goodbye to another person or to a situation, maybe it's to a job, maybe it's to a community, maybe it's to the town or the city where you live. You'll never know until you accept it and you walk through the door. The door is the clarity that is waiting for you to go to the next stage, the next chapter of your life. So my question to you is, what will you do? Sometimes the work is simply not unseeing what you now know. It's not talking yourself out of it. It's not minimizing it. And it's not making yourself feel small so that you can maintain control. Just letting the clarity be what it is. Elevated listening teaches us that awareness is a form of peace. Not because it feels good all the time, but because it ends that internal war. Do you know what I'm talking about? Inside, we're struggling. People will talk about the angel and the devil on your shoulders. Do this, don't do this. Inside, you're tormented. You have information. You've known this person for so long and you never saw this side of them. And now you've seen it and you're sitting with it and you're thinking, if I acknowledge it, that it's actually true, I will have to do something. I will be compelled because inside it's destroying me. And so you'll have to make a choice. Will you confront the person? Will you walk away from the person? Will you try to accommodate without dealing with it? The choices that you make will show up in your mental and physical health, I promise you. If you make yourself feel small, if you swallow it down and pretend I didn't see it, I don't know it, it will come up. It will manifest in some way. And that's the internal strife that I am talking about. When you lie your head down on the pillow at night and you can't sleep because you are literally tormented by what you now know. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, calling your friends, calling your family, just gossiping about what you now know, that's not going to help you. If anything, it's going to make it worse because now with the way life is, people may judge you. People may say, well, you know, we already knew that about so-and-so. We were just waiting for you to see it. So now not only do you realize what you didn't know, but now you realize other people already knew it and they didn't say anything to you. And now you feel like a fool. So now you've made it even worse, but that was your choice. So my suggestion to you is when you see something, meaning you see it physically, you acknowledge it, you're aware of it, take some time in the silence and process it. Don't start phoning a friend. Don't start posting on social media. I see this all the time. People put things on social media. And the first thing I think to myself is, I guess that person needs external validation. They basically want to set up a poll. Should I stay friends with this person? Should I not stay friends with this person? Make up your own mind. We have choice. You can choose who you have in your life. You can choose what content you put into your head. You can choose what you're watching. You can choose who you're engaging with, where you're going. So, with this information, my suggestion, based on my experience, based on elevated listening, is you sit in the silence. You don't judge the other person, you don't judge yourself. You just decide, can I continue existing in this relationship, whatever the relationship it may be? Can I continue knowing what I now know? You may think to yourself, I'm going to address it with the person and I'm going to make them change. And as I said already, good luck with that. Okay, now you're spending precious energy doing something that is not going to pay off because you can't change anyone. I can't change you. You can't change me. So, accepting that this is the person is, can you have that situation now in your life? There's a reality show. I'm not going to say which one it is, but it's basically about people meeting through a wall. They never see each other. So you can figure out which one it is. And they decide if there's actually a connection there. And then one person can ask the other to marry them, and then they get to see each other, and so on and so forth. And so, what's come out during a number of the seasons is that people did not disclose everything about them. Sometimes people had other relationships or they had other children and they never disclosed it. And so now the person is aware that this person has a side to them that they didn't know. And so they get to the altar and it's, will they say yes, knowing what they now know? And in most cases, from the shows I've watched, they say no because they can't unsee the fact that the person wasn't honest with them from the beginning. So you have a choice. You're in a great position. You're in the driver's seat of opportunity, taking the clarity, saying, thank you. I'm so grateful I have the opportunity to see what the situation is. And I choose either to accept it and accommodate, cooperate, negotiate, or I choose to say, I'm setting a boundary, and whatever that boundary is, I'm moving forward in another way. You get that opportunity. What an incredible gift. So if you're listening to this show right now and this resonates with you, I want to leave you with this. And this is the good news. You do not need to have all the answers right now. In fact, you don't need to have any answers right now. You can just think about what I shared. You don't need to know what comes next. You don't have to have a plan. You don't have to start mapping things out. You don't have to start journaling. You can if it's helpful. And you don't need to explain your clarity to anyone else. It's not a popularity contest. All you need to do is to honor the clarity you now have. Because once you see clearly, as you are right now, the real work becomes learning how to live in alignment with what you know. And this is the most important part, without abandoning yourself in the process. You don't want to lose who you are because of your newfound awareness. This is not loss, it's maturity and it's growth. And this is exactly where peace begins. Thank you so much. If you're interested in learning more, you can order a copy of my book, Mastering the Power of Elevated Listening, which is on Amazon. It's also available in all the major bookstores. And in there, I elaborate on the 4 pillars of elevated listening. And I'll just go through them briefly. The first is listening without interruption. The second, listening without problem solving. The third is listening without stage hogging. And the fourth, which is the biggest, which literally I really believe takes a lifetime of work, is listening without judgment. It is so easy to judge someone. If you have this new awareness of your partner, of your family member, of your team member, of your community member, whatever it might be. You do not have to judge them. You can give them grace. We are all humans doing the best that we can for the most part. So I want to thank you for being interested in learning. And I want to thank you for attending my episode. I'll be back tomorrow. If you've missed any of my previous shows, you can go over to our YouTube channels and you can actually subscribe and watch the content there. I'm looking for one of my banners to put up so that you can, here it is. You can go over to Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck or USA Global TV on YouTube, and you can subscribe to those channels. If you'd like to get in contact with me, what do? I am the Chief Listening Officer, President, and Executive Producer at USA Global TV and Radio. I'm a private advisor to leaders. I'm a peace ambassador, and I'm also an award-winning author. So if you'd like to contact me directly, you can do so by going to my websites, usaglobaltv.com or drjacalyn.com, or by email. You can email me at drjacalyn@usaglobaltv.com. Thank you again for being here. I'm going to close out. If you are not aware, I did record my first single, and it's called Please Listen to What I Say. And this is just a short clip. If you like it, you can download it on Apple iTunes, on Amazon Music, or on Spotify. Take a listen. And thanks again for being here.
Listen, babe, now. 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 Listen, babe, now.
In a noisy world, true connection begins with listening. Elevated listening transforms every conversation in just 5 simple steps. Pause and breathe. Set your intention. Listen with curiosity. Reflect back. Agree on one next step. Join the Listening Mentor on Let's Finally Talk with Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, the Listening Mentor, where we help you find inner peace, one conversation at a time. Streaming every day. Let's Finally Talk TV show with Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, only here on USA Global TV and Radio. Subscribe to our YouTube channels to watch and engage with all our content.
In a world craving connection, one platform dared to dream bigger. USA Global TV and Radio, a beacon for global voices, authentic storytelling, and elevated listening. Led by visionary Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, the journey from a spark to a global force is now captured in one inspiring book. Honored with YouTube's Silver Creator Award for surpassing 100,000 subscribers. Discover the evolution, the challenges, the triumphs, and the unstoppable spirit that created a global movement. Executive producer Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Music score by Yeffy Tang. Creative director Paul Garcia. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication, or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited. Now an Amazon #1 new release in paperback and ebook. Broadcasting Brilliance, the evolution of USA Global TV and Radio, is inspiring readers around the world. Join the movement that's redefining global media one story at a time.
USA Global TV and Radio proudly presents Tracy Cram-Perkins, a dementia caregiving survivor teaching how to balance care with peace of mind. #1 resource for dementia caregivers. It's the book Dementia Home Care: How to Prepare Before, During, and After. Over 17,000 copies sold of this must-have guide. And now a testimonial from Tracy Smith.
If I was to describe this book to someone who is going through a similar situation, I would underscore how important it is to have some sort of a tool or a guidebook to help you through certain stages. And there's so many it's such an unknown topic to the average person, and to have this as a reference is essential. It's going to help you get through it personally, as well as help your loved one manage.
To learn more, go to TracyCramPerkins.com. Tracy Cram Perkins is an award-winning author. She's also the host of Dementia Home Care television show. Watch it here on USA Global TV and Radio.
Get ready to wear the brand that's changing the world of media. Introducing the official USA Global TV and Radio online store. From our TV show hosts to our incredible global guests, you asked, we delivered. Rep your appearance with pride. Whether you've been on air, hosted a show, or tuned in, we have something just for you. Visit us at usaglobaltvradioshoп.myspreadshop.com and start shopping today. Check back frequently. We're dropping fresh new designs all the time. Showcase your role in our global community. These designs celebrate your voice, your story, your presence. It's more than just merchandise. It's a movement of hope, inspiration, education, and elevated listening. Head to usaglobaltvradioshoп.myspreadshop.com. Your spotlight awaits. USA Global TV and Radio. Elevate your style. Elevate the world.
Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/USA Global TV. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Music by Johnny Dies. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative Direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Copyright 2025. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.